everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hello, welcome back to another live class. I am excited for this one. I've always just thought this one was so pretty. So I'm excited to finally get to paint it. Welcome in if you are new. Say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're from. I always love finding out where people are from and who they're painting with, how you got started, all that jazz. We're gonna go ahead and go over supplies, things you will need for the class or things you may want to have on hand. But to start, let me start off by saying thank you for being here. I do have a Patreon where you can get other exclusive classes as well as a traceable. So if you are interested in getting a traceable for this class, I have a 9x12 and 11x14 in my Patreon. I will not be using it for this class because when things are a little bit more nature, I tend to want to be a little bit more expressive in where I place things and things like that. And sometimes it's easier for me to do it without the traceable. But if you are someone, especially with the railroad, if you're someone who kind of needs a little bit more direction, that is totally fine. Traceables are they're not cheating. They're just another tool that we use. Another tool you might want to have on hand if you don't want to use the traceable is maybe some tape or a ruler. Either of these things, again, they're not cheating. They're just tools that we use as artists to be able to create what we want to create, okay? So feel free to get out tape, a ruler. You can use the traceable. Feel free to use any of the tools that you want to be able to create this painting, and we're gonna have fun, okay? Let me go ahead and get out my tape just in case I need it. I don't know if I'll need it. I don't know. I imagine I'll probably use my ruler, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I feel like it would be easier to use tape. I don't know. All right. So yes, I have posted the traceable not only in the description of the event, but as well as the live chat. So if you're interested in that, or you just want to help the channel and keep these classes free and live for you, that is a way to support me. The traceable tier is only $5, so you can pay once for the month and get access to all the traceables until the end of the month, or you can wait until the beginning of the month and have the full month, or you can stay. It's all your choice, and every bit helps the channel and helps me and my family. Let's move on to colors. The colors are pretty much what you see. You have your black and your white, which I have off screen, and then you have your browns and oranges and reds, anything that's going to be in that realm. So I have a red. It's a scarlet red. But it's currently in a raw umber tube because it was leftover paint from a paint project, and I didn't want to get rid of the paint because it was all good paint. I think it was from our strawberry rock. My kids and I painted rocks as like strawberries, and so it was leftover paint from that. So it's a little bit more liquid. It's not as full body acrylic as it should be, but I'm gonna use it because I don't want to waste paint. So I have like a bright red, I have a raw umber, and then I have my yellows and oranges, and then I'm also gonna have a blue on hand so that I can kind of cool down all the shadows. So yeah, and that's pretty much the basics. You don't really need anything else. The colors in here are really, really pretty, but really, really simple, okay? And I apologize for my coughing. I think I'm not sick. As I said last week that I was getting over a cold, but I think it's just I think it's allergies. We live in Merced where they're like shaking all the almonds off, and I think I'm just discovering I have new allergies, which is it's great. It's great. Lovely new allergies. So I've just had this like weird lingering cough for the last 2 weeks, and it's awful. Anyways, that aside, those are our colors. Not many colors. All your warms, warm reds and orange yellow colors, and then I don't even know if I'll use my yellow, but I have it just in case. And then your blues to kind of cool down the rocks and the gravel. I have 2 things of water. I also have paper towel, palette knife, my palette. I also have a palette knife that I use for pre-mixing some paints. If you are new and you're not used to pre-mixing your colors, it's really handy to pre-mix your colors. And yeah, so it allows you to just pre-mix your colors, have all your palette, and then be able to go from there, and you don't have to worry about mixing as you go. And that's that. Somebody's saying it's hard to hear. I'm gonna turn this up, but just my mic is like really fidgety, so if I touch certain parts of it, it'll like disconnect and then you won't hear anything. So I'm just gonna, hopefully that's better. Part of it is also my voice, because when I project, it makes me cough more. So that's what we're getting. Okay. Brushes. We have quite a bit of brushes that we're gonna go over. They're not all, you don't have to have all of these, but it will be helpful in trying to create more of this like forest aesthetic. I have my large filbert that we're going to use for the majority of the background. This can be any large brush that you desire. I like to use filberts because I feel like there's less corners, so there's less brush lines. But that's just me. That's my preference. If you have another large brush that you like to use for the backgrounds and things like that, feel free to do that. Use what you like. And then I have a medium to small filbert. Medium to small filbert. And then I also have a couple round brushes. So I have 2 round brushes about the same size. One is a little bit more pointed and the other one's a little bit more round. I know it's kind of hard to see, very little screen. And then I have a liner brush. I don't know how much we'll use the liner brush. There are a couple, branches that we might use them for. But yeah, and then the main thing you're going to want to have is you're going to want to have something to do all of the foliage. So I have these hog bristle brushes. There we go. That was a tongue twister. Hog bristle brushes. And it means that they're stiff. So they're going to hold their shape when I get a lot of water or heavy paint on here. A lot of the brushes that come in your kits and stuff like that, they have the same kind of nylon, really soft bristles, and I find that this is really hard to get texture with. So just make sure that you have some sort of brush that is either a stippler or stiff, or I've also used something like this where there's just a lot and you can tap it and get texture from that. So if you're not really sure how your brushes perform with this type of technique, feel free to use the different brushes. You can try out on a plate. or something else that you can kind of practice. Maybe try it out on like a practice book or something like that, and you can see what the different brushes do with your paint, and that's always a good thing to do if you're unsure of how your brushes work or how they will perform with that type of technique. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the brushes. Again, I do have a ruler and tape over off on the side in case I need it. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over just the general shape in case you didn't use a traceable. We're gonna kind of just draw out a little bit of kind of where things are going, and then we're gonna do a wash, and I'm gonna show you a really cool technique that I love using. And in our wash, we get to kind of place certain things, okay? And I'll show you I'll show you what I mean. But first, we're gonna go ahead and put in some of our key elements, like the train. We're gonna do that with a pencil, and then we'll get to go over it with a wash and kind of put everything else in. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and get my ruler and a pencil. I guess it helps that that's on the list too. I can find my pencil. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is figure out where you want the furthest distance of your train track. Figure out where that is. Now in the picture, if you look closely, it is like right smack dab in the middle of the painting. Like that's where your focus is drawn to, is really, it ends right in the middle. So the first thing I'm gonna do is kind of figure out where the middle is, right? So it's about, you know, you can eyeball it if you want, but or you can be precise however you want. It's about the middle. So I just put a little tiny dot in the middle. You can't really see it on screen, but that's where I'm gonna go. And then the it comes out to about a third. If you look at where each marking is, where each railroad, like the side of the tracks, the right side and the left side, it's about a third in. So it breaks up the canvas in thirds. It's not like perfect, so it doesn't matter if it's like, you know, perfect. I think this side is technically a little bit smaller, but you can make it as perfect as you want. I'm just gonna eyeball it. So I'm gonna look at this straight on, because if I'm not looking at it straight on, I will not get it straight. First, I'm gonna make a little mark in the exact middle of it, so I can kind of gauge it. Let's see. So this is about a third, so I'm gonna go here, and I'm just gonna take the same amount about here. I'm gonna erase that bottom one. Perfect. And now for the purposes of using the ruler, I'm gonna turn it over so that I can actually use the ruler how I want to use it, because it's gonna be harder using it up against the thing. So now I'm just gonna take this ruler and I'm just gonna draw a line from here all the way and I'm gonna do it again. All right, and that is what we need. All right, so once you get that, you can add other details if you would like to. For instance, you can add where certain trees are. I'm just gonna leave it, and I'm gonna add those later. This is really the only thing that I need, because, well, it's kind of going to affect everything around it, right? This is the focal point, and then everything else kind of enhances it and kind of surrounds it, okay? So while you guys are finishing up that, I'm going to go over a couple announcements, past classes, and things that are coming up in the near future. So last week, if you were not a part of my community, then maybe you don't know, but we painted a duck last week. So this is what we painted last week. This is free class on my YouTube, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss a class. Go over there and paint this little cutie. It was a lot of fun. I love how it turned out. I love the colors. I came out a little bit more realistic, like more realism than I wanted, but I love how it came out. I love the textured background, the pretty colors in the feathers. So if you want to learn how to paint this, go to my channel. It was the one that we did last week. It's free, and it's there for you to go paint. I don't take down some of my classes. Some people do. I am not one of those artists. I leave them up. So if we do a free class, it will forever be free, and you can go paint it. And then I also have a Patreon. I mentioned this earlier before. I do have live class traceables for all of my live classes in my Patreon. So if you sign up through Patreon, you'll get access to all of them. It doesn't matter what month you join, you'll have access to all of them. And you can go in there and download a couple and paint them, and then you can stay to get new traceables. New traceables come out with the classes each month, or you can leave and come back later when you want another one, or however you want to do it. You can stay support, or you can leave. It's up to you. And then in my Patreon, I also have other exclusive classes, kind of like these, but they're once a month. And we painted this month. So we painted a kind of magical-esque flowers and book. So this one, I love how it came out. It was a really fun process because it's a little bit more of like impressionism with the flowers, and it was really easy technique. So if you like this is exclusive to my patrons. It's at the $10 level, and just like the traceables, once you're in, you have access to everything, and you also get access to the traceables as well if you're in the magenta $10 tier for the tutorials. And then lastly, I have a higher level tier that we work on a painting every week that's live. The Friday tutorials are once a month, and it's just a pre-recorded class, so you get to, paint with it whenever you need to. These ones are live every week. And this month we painted a dragon. Now that's not to say that you can't go back and watch them. You can, and just like the others, you'll get access to all of the other $20 tutorials. Next month we're painting a castle, and it's going to be amazing. My husband found this picture of a castle on a hill, and it's beautiful fall colors, and I'm really excited for it. But this month we I'm kind of being like a majestic, magical feeling lately. But we did a resting dragon. So if you want to paint that, it's available. I would wait until the first of the month to sign up for the Cobalt tier, because it is $20 a month, which you can only stay for. You can stay for 1 month if you want, or you can stay for 2. But I would wait until the first of the month to sign up for those, just so that you can enjoy the full month of the tutorials rather than just the last couple days of this month, because it renews on the 1st. Okay, so hopefully you all have this triangle down, and you've put in any other details that you want. Let's go ahead and start mixing our paint. Let's go ahead and start. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my black paint and my white paint, which reminds me, I still need to go get white paint. I don't know about you, I am the worst at actually going to the store and getting more paint. Like, I've been running out of white for like 4 weeks, and I still haven't gotten more. White is so essential. Because I only think about it. I only think about when I'm using it, and that's like when I'm in a class. I can't just, go to a store right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of black, get a little bit of white. I'm going to mix this together. And I want kind of a dark gray. A dark S gray. It will lighten up as we get our water on there. So once you get a medium to dark gray, I'm going to take my large brush. Again, you can use, I'm using a large filbert. You can use a different large one. Can I light up my canvas? I have light on it. If I turn it up anymore, it'll just wash it out. You'll be able to see more when I start painting on it. In terms of the, actually turn this down, maybe that'll help. I don't really know. Let me see if I can adjust this. It's hard. So my camera is adjusting because the canvas is bright. Once I start putting color on it, it'll adjust. Okay, I'm gonna get this wet. And I'm going to start just putting this gray over the whole canvas. As we start putting this on, we'll be able to start adjusting where the bits of paint are. Now, if you're wondering, I have quite a bit of water on my canvas with my brushes, with my paint. This is called a wash. We're just, really what we're doing is we're getting rid of that bright background of white. Because if we just go in with our color, sometimes it's really hard to get canvas on that white. So not only does this help with not having a white canvas background, but it helps. Oh, I'll show you. It's going to help us kind of draw out our landscape. Now I'm going to go in with just some white here. Sorry, I said white. I meant water. And you see how I kind of took away some of that? Because this is kind of where that light version is. It's kind of where the light's coming from. So you can kind of start that. That's kind of where the light's coming from. You don't really have to do this. I just think it's fun. It's fun to kind of put in the direction of everything that you're seeing. So for instance, I'm going to go up into the middle with all of this, because that's where things are naturally going to be. And you can add a little bit more paint to anything that's like darker, like over here. I'm just mixing together my gray and my white, my gray and my water. I keep saying white, I apologize. My gray and my water. Making sure to get every inch of the canvas. It's almost like another way of putting on a primer. Because a lot of times once you get that first coat on, it's a lot easier to cover it with like the paint, the color that's actually supposed to be on there. I'm gonna take off some of this up here because I realize it's a little bit lighter, or you can go in with your white. And then you can take off some of this. These are the fun things that we get to do. We're like, okay, there's a little bit more of a white section here. And you can actually take off the paint and just kind of play with it, move it around. Go a little darker over here. And when I say darker, I just mean my paint is a little more saturated. I find it super relaxing to paint with washes because I know that that's not how it's going to turn out. It's just a wash. Like, we have so many more layers that we're going to do, and I find it almost like kiddish playful to just like be able to move around the paint like we can in a wash capacity. It's very fun for me. All right, so that's pretty much it. I'm just gonna give a little bit more darkness to this area, a little bit more shadow in this area. But again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is just kind of, you know, it's just our wash. All right, so once we have this is gonna dry. We do want this to be fully dry before we create more, but we have to create essentially a background. We're gonna do a lot of trees. There's a lot of trees involved, and then through those trees we're gonna add our color. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our kind of cool background areas. I'm gonna keep this gray. I'm gonna add a little bit more gray to this because I kind of used all my gray. And then I'm actually going to add just a little bit of blue to this, just to cool it off ever so slightly. And the trick with something like this is lots and lots of layers. So we're going to start with the furthest thing back, which is going to be the little force that's peeking through. So I'm going to grab my small filbert. I'm going to grab some of this gray, and I'm just going to fill in this area. Just roughly, I'm going to fill it in. Okay, and that's kind of just going to be there. We can add some white. We'll add a little bit of red once we get that color. We can add a little bit of red back there. Maybe we'll add a little bit of a darker gray just to add a little bit of interest to the background, but you can't really see what it is anyways, so we're just adding colors that we will eventually, well, it'll eventually make sense once we put everything else in. Right now it's just kind of a jumble of colors, and that's okay. We don't have to make sense of everything right away. Alright, now I'm going to move on to the next color, which is kind of a little bit darker. So we're going to take some of this, I'm going to take my black, and I'm just going to add black to that same gray. It's not too much darker, but it's there. And I'm going to get a bigger brush, and I'm going to add this gray to a good portion of this. Maybe with some sky peeking through up here. But see, now what we're doing is we're putting gray on gray instead of gray on white. And let me tell you, it is a big difference because it is so much easier to put gray on gray than to have all those little white pieces of your canvas peek through because it's peeking through and it's annoying. So I'm just adding a little bit of a white spot here so that the trees I can poke through later with some sky. That's what that's for. So I'm just kind of forward thinking of what is over here. I'm gonna go all the way down with this kind of dark gray to about there, to about half level. And it doesn't need to be perfectly mixed. Let me and when I say mixed, I mean like blended. It does not need to be perfectly blended at all. As I move my way over to the right, first of all, you can go straight up here, but then you can also come back in with some dabbing. Maybe there's some trees that are coming up in that direction that are this gray color, and that is okay because it's so far off in the distance that that's what our mind sees. It's not going to be red, it's not going to be, you know, a bright color. It's going to be that gray. Yes, so there's some gray here, and then we are just going to take this, get some water, maybe get some white, and we're gonna white out the rest of this. It's okay if there's a little bit of gray in it. And I'm doing what's called a crisscross. I call it a crisscross or an applesauce. Crisscross applesauce. Crisscross or figure 8. My brain. Because I'm doing this really fast. I'm making a bunch of little X's, and my brush is going in a figure 8. And that's how I'm just mixing all that together, right? Again, it doesn't have to be mixed perfectly. This is only the second coat. And I'm going in with my white, and I'm just kind of blending that in and moving it around. Maybe going back in with that gray down here by the ground. I'm still working on background colors. I'm not worried about let's see. I'm not worried about it blending perfectly. Can't forget this side. Maybe I'll even go a little bit, I'll go even a little bit brighter, like right here. I'm just dipping my brush into that white and blending it out. Barely touching the canvas. It's starting to dry a little bit, so I want to be careful not to brush too hard. That's fine for about now. I kind of want the background a little textured because it's got so much going on, so that's fine. All right. I'm going to switch brushes and I'm going to go into the same color and I'm going to put in some trees with the same color that we just put in most of this area. Because we blended it into white a little bit, it's going to show up. I'm just going to go straight up. Yeah, it's kind of foggy. It's a little bit foggy, but it's mostly because it's got those sun rays that really do create this foggy feeling, even if it's not really foggy. The sun rays are picking up, it's shining on all of the debris, maybe there's dust in the air, whatever's in the air, it's reflecting off of, which kind of creates those sun rays. All right, so here's that. I'm gonna go in with maybe a little bit of a highlight on the right side. I'm just kind of gonna blend that in ever so slightly. And all of a sudden, we have a tree. A tree has been born. I'm gonna go a little bit darker, and we're gonna kind of move in some of the other directions too. I'm gonna grab a little bit more black here because I don't have any more on my palette. And I'm going to mix it with that same gray. We're just going to keep working with that same gray. This one's a little bit thicker. Again, if you need to use a ruler, that is totally fine. But as you can see, some of these trees are crooked. They're not all perfectly straight. That's okay. I'm gonna grab some of this kind of bluish gray and add that to the side of this one over here. Maybe add a little bit of white to it. I'm just gonna add it to the side. And essentially what I want is I just want it to be ever so slightly brighter than the background. I don't want it to blend in to the background. I want it to be ever so slightly lighter. That. All right. So that's essentially the trees. That's what you're doing for the trees. You can add as many in the background as you want. I'm going to add just a couple more here in the background. But honestly, you can't really see the ones over here because it's so bright. I'm going to go ahead and take my filbert brush and I'm going to do a little bit of dabbing just to add some texture to the background. Maybe they're bushes, maybe they're trees. All right. That's pretty much it. You can add other foliage, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the groundwork so that we can start putting in our trees that are a little bit closer to us. So I'm gonna make a kind of a cool gray, like a darker gray. It's gonna be mostly black, a little bit of white, and a little bit of blue. And make sure you have a good amount of this because it's going to be dark here, but you also have this color all in here, and you're going to need that color. So I'm going to need more black, a little bit of white, a little bit of blue. And we'll be able to add texture of kind of like the rocks or the foliage that's on the ground kind of as we go. Or whenever, you know, when we get that color out. But don't worry about it right now. Okay. Once you get that, we're going to make a lighter version of it by adding more white to it. So we mostly have the dark, but then we do have a lighter version of it. And I'm going to use this color. I'm going to start over here on the right, just because I kind of feel like that works well. I'm kind of just going to brush it up, not really making a line of it. But I'm going to go in with my lighter colors. And I'm going to start pulling in those lighter colors, kind of to make it look like, you know, the light color is coming up and over into it. And then I'm going to add white and that light gray to this whole section. I'm just going to lightly blend that a little bit, just so it's not a harsh line. And you can do that because it's all wet. And we'll add kind of rock textures in a little bit as we as things start to dry. You can even come in with some white and add whiter sections if you want. Allow this section to be a little bit messy and like textured. Like it doesn't need to be all perfectly, you know, blended, because it's not. It's all very textured. There's just a bunch of rocks, you know. I'm going to add some light sections that are coming out here. So I'm just using the different grays that I have. The grays, the combinations of the grays and the whites. I'm using white on the lighter grays, and when I go to the darker grays, I use the light gray. And we'll add the different color of light when we get that color. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side now. Essentially, it's the same thing. And while I'm doing this, I'm still trying to keep the integrity of that that triangle. The next thing we'll do is go over it with black so we don't lose it. I'm going to put a strip of white down the middle, kind of just blend that out a little bit. Alright, I'm just kind of filling this in. It's a little bit more of a wash, but that's okay. I'm going to come in and add just a little bit of white to the top portion and a little bit of the darkness to the bottom portion, and that'll help kind of fill in that. I'm going to add a little bit more of this dark color here. And you'll see I'm kind of just wiggling my brush because that's kind of giving the texture that I want. Kind of adding texture here and there, just kind of playing around with it, allowing like this, doing stuff like this, doing nature like this is very fun for me because it's really, you just get to kind of play around. Okay, and when we get over here, I'm just gonna kind of blend this in with the sky. Like, when does it actually turn into the sky? I don't know. Because it's really dark. It's really dark over here because of the lack of sunlight. And once again, I'm just going to play around with the kind of stippling, adding highlights in different places. I'm going to, it's kind of a little bit of a dry brush. You can add bits of sunlight here and there. just try to remember, if you do like a sun, like something like this, remember that part of this is going to be in the shade. And actually, I'm going to redo this because this actually doesn't line up correctly. I put this in here not really realizing what it was. And this is over here, it's because it's a shadow of this tree. So here, it's kind of coming this direction. So you can come down here. And then you can like that. And those are only for the ones that are in the sun. For the ones that are over here that like aren't really in this direct sunlight, then it's not going to be as bright. You can add more texture if you want to. You can add it with your whatever brush. I'm being fun and using my finger because I can. Because why not? Who says you can't use your finger? Just remember that you used your finger and like don't touch your nose, because I did that last class and nobody told me I had a big giant black thing on my nose for who knows how long of the class. Guys, if that happens, tell me, please. Alright. If you have a dry brush, you can add some fun texture by using the flat part of your brush and a little bit of paint and just pull it across your canvas and add some texture. I'm really only doing that to the stuff that's closer. Alright, I'm going to start adding some more trees. So I'm going to grab this dark color, add some white to it. Kind of the same color that's up here. And we're just going to and I'm actually going to show you something, and it's something I just did. If you put light color on one half of your brush, you flip it over, you put a dark color on the other side, then when you go and do a tree that's perpendicular, you put the dark side on your left, you put the light side on your right, and you go straight up. All of a sudden you have a tree that's got highlight and it's got low light, and you don't have to do anything about it. You just, one stroke, you put in a tree. Let me show you with a bit darker colors. You go over it a couple times, you can make it even more. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some dark some darkness. So just as a background, I'm gonna take my my large fan brush, and just before I start putting in all of these trees, I need to get some of this in the background. So I'm just gonna add, I'm just using this dark color. Maybe a little bit lighter. Bear in mind that this will get lighter as we put in our sun rays. I'm just trying to fill in this all. And when you're doing a background like this, I would say that more is better. Fill it up. And I went all the way to black over here. All the way to black. Even though I went to black, it's not actually black, because when I put a black trunk there, I'm still gonna be able to see it. But I went to black on my I went to black all the way on my brush, even though it blended in with the gray that's on my canvas. And I'm gonna keep using this brush to kind of add some texture over here. Alright, while I'm doing this, I'm going to add some of this over here too, on the right. Because there's a little bit of a darker bits over here. Alright, so that has filled it in quite nicely. I'm making sure not to go into this light area because all of that is, we don't need to go in there. I'm going to rinse out this brush because I don't really need it anymore. At least, not right now. I'm going to go ahead and put in my train tracks while all that dries. So I'm going to get my whatever brush you're comfortable with doing straight lines. And again, if you need to use some tape, here I'll show you I'll show you how to do that. Just real quick, I'll show you how to do the tape method. I'm going to figure out the edge. I'm going to go in figure out where that middle piece was. And then you're going to get another one, do the same thing. Just make sure that your tape is all the way down. Now, if you want, you could do both sides or one at a time, but I would recommend just doing it this way. And remember that it gets thinner the closer it gets to that top. You got to go real thin at the top, real thin at the top, and then as you make your way down, it can get thicker. Like that. And there you go. Go ahead and throw that away. And then you can always make them thicker. I think I'll make mine a little bit thicker, but maybe with a smaller brush. Be a little bit more intentional with how big this is. You guys go ahead and do that for a little bit. I hear my son calling and I don't want to ignore him. I'm going to make sure everything's okay because they're supposed to be down for nap time. So let me step out for just a second. You finish that portion of it and then we will, I'll come back in just a minute, okay? Hello, hello, I am back. Sorry about that. Hopefully all of you have gotten your train tracks and we can keep on going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just touch these up and make them a little bit thicker at the bottom now that I can kind of see how thick they are because I've taken that off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it to the side. And now I've realized that I've missed the bottom part of it. Let's see. That's better. Okay, I'm going to thicken these up a little bit. And I'm turning this around so that I can do the best I can at making it straight. It's a lot harder to go up and down to the side when you're trying to make something straight. And I want to use the top of my brush to do this. So for me, it's just simply easier to do it this way. So I'm using my small filbert for adding, making it bigger, and then I'm also using a liner brush to do the very, very tippy parts of it. All right, so now that we got that, I'm gonna go ahead and grab a flat brush. I didn't mention this before, but this is what I'm gonna be using. And this is just so I can try to get all the same size. And I'm just gonna take my round brush, get it wet, get some black. And again, if you want to use a, a ruler or tape or anything like that, you certainly can. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a liner brush, but probably not for what you might think I would be using it for. I'm going to be using it for the outer edge of it. So outer edge. of all of the pieces. So that'll give it a I'm just eyeballing it. It's okay if it's not perfect. Let that go under. And again, we can always add texture once we get it on there. I'm gonna use the kind of black, dark gray. I'm going to kind of start, I did a couple up top, but I think I'm going to start with the bottom. And while this is wet, I'm going to put in the shadows. So there's going to be a shadow on wherever there's going to be like the lights over here, so there's going to be a shadow on the left side of each of the tracks on the pieces of wood. So you're just going to do that at the same time, starting off with the gray. Oh, it's a little too close. So if you do this and you're like, oh no, it's too close, grab a clean brush and just wipe it away. And I'm only wiping away some of it because it's going to be there, just not that close. And then each one is going to get smaller and closer together. Alright, so before I lift this up, I'm just going to make sure that I have all the pieces I want, and there's Alright, so now for the big reveal. And there we go. We got our railroad track. Now this is before we've added any of the texture on top of it, but I'm gonna go ahead and add, before I go and add any more texture on that, we have about 35 minutes left in the class, and so I want to finish out the trees so that we can start putting in some of the other stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and get my big brush again. I'm going to put on 2 or 3 more trees in this area by putting black on one side and the kind of lighter gray, well, it's a dark gray, but the lighter, so you have black and then you have like a gray. You have one. It's right here on the edge. Just make sure that your dark side is on the right side. I'm gonna put this crooked tree right here in the middle because I really like it. All right, so that's pretty much it in the tree department of the trunks over here. I'm gonna add a little bit of highlight down here at the bottom by adding little lines. And I'm just doing that with the big brush. But it's, you can add it in little lines and that'll create some kind of bark texture. Some of these trees are getting hit with some sun. Alright, so now we're going to move over here, and bear in mind these ones are going to be a little bit lighter because they're not as in the dark as the other ones. So you can use the one stroke technique of putting multiple colors on a brush, or you can go in with one color and then add the highlights later. It's up to you how you want to do it. Maybe you want to use both techniques for different, you know, different trees. I'm going to go ahead and come in here with this gray, kind of light gray. And add in I'm going to do a smaller brush though. It's a pretty light gray. I'm just going to add some of these in here. And I'm going to come in here with a little bit of gray, the liner brush. I don't really see any other branches other than a couple on the other side. I'm going to take a little bit of a darker approach and come down. And I'm just going to dab my brush down. While I'm using this brush, I'm going to go ahead and get some white on my brush. I'm kind of a gray. And I'm going to start adding some texture. And start adding just like a lighter version of what's already on here. And don't worry about the main railroad, because we're gonna go back over that with black before we're done. And then you can always come back in with a little bit of this and re-put in any like if you cover it up too much, you know. I'm gonna go ahead and go over the main railroad now. To blacken that out. And then once that's dry, we'll go over and add a highlight, because it is metal. All right, let's go ahead and get our red color out. Let's put some color in this painting. I am ready for the color. All right, so I have some red. I'm gonna grab some orange, or if you don't have orange, you could use yellow. You'll just have to use less yellow. And then I'm gonna get out just a tad bit of brown. Oops, that is my red again. That's fine. Actually, I'm gonna put that back. All right, I'm gonna mix together my red and orange. I'm just gonna slowly mix that in. I'm gonna start with my orange actually, and slowly add in some red. I'm gonna move this down here. Because I feel like it's a little bit more on the redder side, I mean the oranger side, than it is red. I'm going to add a little bit of brown and just a touch of white. So mostly orange, a little bit of red, touch of brown, touch of white. Now I'm going to take that off to the side and add even more white. And I think this is where the yellow come in, because I think I need a little bit of a brighter hue. So I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow in each of these. Okay, so I ended up adding a little bit more brown to the lighter one, and I think I like that better. I'm going to add a little bit more brown to this brighter one, because even though our eyes know that it's a red tree, what is actually the color of the tree is a little bit more brown than we'd probably like to admit. Okay, so now that I've got that, let's go ahead and put in some color. We're gonna do the flares last, by the way. Excuse me. So I'm going to grab this brush again, my large one, get the majority of this color down. And I'm going to go in with the lightest color first and see how that looks on the canvas. And I'm going to go up here. Because these are the parts that are in the sun, okay? And I think this is a good color. It's a little bit too big of blotches for me, so I'm gonna switch to a smaller one, and I think that will be better for this. So we're gonna go into the dark one now, and I'm going to add the light and other parts of it later. So we're going to add all the darks first, get in all these darks, and then we're going to add layers to it. So all the darks are over here. You kind of can't see a lot of the darks through all the lights, but they're there. And it kind of goes up into a black at the top, so just keep that in mind. It does get pretty dark up here. I'm gonna add this medium color now. Maybe some of this bright color. We'll see how this looks. So here's where you can start adding the little bits of color in here. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to a black, and I'm gonna do a dry brush. This just means that I don't really have any water on my brush. I'm just gonna add some texture here and there. I'm gonna add black. I'm gonna add back in this thing that's there. It's like a log over there. I'm going to take some brown and add it to this area. Blackish brown. All right. I want to go ahead and take my filbert brush and put back in some of these trunks that we covered up. I'm just going to kind of pick and choose some of these, like this one I think I want to bring back in right here. And I put that trunk back in. All right, and now for the fun part, we get to add the highlights. Now, you're gonna wanna have a clean brush for this. This is really important because as soon as you add anything to this brush, you're gonna put that on the canvas. And if you have red or black or anything else in your brush that you think is clean and is not clean, it's gonna present a problem. So we're gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of white, and I'm actually going to mix it just ever so slightly with the lightest color of this kind of orange. And I'm even gonna go as far as to get some clean water, not this other water that is very, very dirty. And if you can, start with barely anything on your brush. Essentially, we're going to do washing, and we can build it up as we go. It doesn't need to start off with a ton of paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start coming with behind. And I'm using a flat brush. And if you ever put lines like that and you feel like it's too much, get a different clean brush. And brush it out a little bit. Okay, you're allowed to change what it is that you put on your brush. It is important that you do this while everything else is dry. So I'm going to use a combination of those two brushes. The big clean one. I'm going in and just getting a tiny bit of paint. I'm gonna go ahead and wetten. I'm just gonna put water on that section so I can add. I'm going to take this clean brush and pull all of this out. And I'm just going to go over this edge. Maybe I need my clean brush to fix anything that I might have just done. Just try to keep all the strokes in the same direction. All right, and there you go. You're just going to kind of keep working it until you find a happy medium that you like by using two brushes, one that has your paint on it and one that just has water, and you're able to kind of manipulate some of that. I'm going to go ahead and add just little bits of leaves that are falling in the sun, are getting caught in the sunlight. And then the last thing that we are going to do, I'm going to take my liner brush and I'm just going to add a little bit of a highlight. Not too much, just a little bit on I'm going to try to do it as straight as I can. Like that. And there you go. There you have it. There is our beautiful painting. I'm going to add, I just feel like there should be a little bit more color over here, just ever so slightly. I'm just going to add a little bit of color over there. But anyways, yeah, that is the end of our class. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this paint night and this experience. If you are not a part of my Facebook group or my Facebook page, which bear in mind, my Facebook page is where I post probably 90% of everything that I post, whether it's new events, new classes over my Patreon, contests that are going on, whatever it is. Facebook is where you need to be. So I went ahead and posted that in the link in the live chat. I'm also going to post a link for my Facebook community. If you painted this with me, I would love to see yours. Being able to see people's creation from my classes is one of my favorite things I get to do. Normally when I paint them in person, I will take a picture of everybody who is in class. I get to see them, I get to post it. But doing things online, I can't do that. I can't see it unless you post it. So I'd really appreciate it if you painted this please show it. Show everybody who is in class and painted this, and encourage other people to paint it as well, because if you can do it, so can they. And that really encourages other people to paint it too. So thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next class. And then, yeah, we'll see you then. I won't see you next week because next Wednesday is my birthday, and I don't really want to work on my birthday. And since this is my own business, I get to choose not to work, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, we will see you in a couple weeks. And yeah, I love this painting. I'm just looking at it in my, I love how it came out. So I hope you enjoyed yourself. We'll see you not next week, but 2 weeks from now. Otherwise, I'll see you in Patron, and I'll let you know what I do for my birthday. But happy painting. We'll see you in a couple weeks. And yeah, bye guys.